talented wife, Karen. I've just got to say that because she's been doing some really good things in Cotter. They live in Cotter. He was born and graduated from high school in West Plains, and he's been in the Mountain Home area since at least 1998. He worked for the Mountain Home Police Department from 88 to 2003, and has been in his current position, as all of you know him, as the Baxter County Sheriff since 2005. I would like to introduce John Montgomery.
Thank you. I won't use that.
Okay, it works if
Okay.
you want to use it.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm not going to use that microphone, as those that know me know that I have a big mouth and I love to talk. So I was telling Marcia, there's a lot of faces that I don't recognize, and so I'm just going to take real quick and introduce myself, a little bit of my history and background. So I did grow up in West Plains on a small farm. I'm one of 6 boys, my poor mother, and the ironic part, we're all 6 years apart, and you can do the math and figure it out. So I moved to Mountain Home in 1983 and managed an electronics store here called Hubert's Home Entertainment Center. You'd have been around a long time to remember that. And in 1988, a lot of my clients and customers were police officers and deputy sheriffs. In fact, my secretary's husband was a deputy sheriff. And there was an opportunity, they decided, the police department, to hire on some reserve officers. And they suggested I apply. I did, and as soon as I went to work there, I was hooked. I love law enforcement. And so I did that for about 15 years, ran for office in 2004, was elected, took office as sheriff in January 2005, and I've been here ever since. So I love my job 95% of the time. And if I didn't have the jail, that probably would go up even higher. Because the jail is a whole separate challenge in itself. But again, I do love what I do, and so what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about, first of all, I'm not a realtor. I've got family and friends that are realtors, and so what I'm going to talk to you about is my perspective of some safety things that realtors can do. So keep in mind, not being a realtor, some of these may not be practical. Some of them you may not agree with, but I at least want to run through some things that I think would be good safety-wise for you all. So one of the first things is if you're going out, now by the way, I want to make this clear. This is not directed necessarily at females or males. I mean, because I can tell you when you look across the country, I mean, you want to stay safe. That's the number one name of the game. Safety first. So if you're going out to show something, a piece of property, or meet with clients, tell somebody where you're going. And I'm sure you all do that, but it's important that you tell them where you're going, tell them what time your appointment is, so that somebody out there knows where you're at and what time you're supposed to be finished. I'm going to suggest that something as simple as take a picture of yourself and make sure you send that to somebody that day. So, for example, if you sit there and you took a picture of yourself and you said, hey, this is what I'm wearing today, and something did happen, well, immediately we know what he's wearing, what he looks like, everything. So when that gets to law enforcement, we can quickly, not trying to say, well, we got a picture of him? Well, he doesn't look like that anymore because the last time he didn't have a beard. No, that lets us see exactly what they look like. And that's a simple thing. But if you do that every day, and on that same note, your car. So, right now, how many here knows the license plate number on their car? Okay, there's more than I thought, because I don't. Okay. Well, you might, Z-Team, I get that. Okay. But I don't. And so the thing of it is, take a picture of your car, take a picture of the license plate, and have that somewhere. Again, something happens, heaven forbid, we know what you look like, what you were wearing that day, here's the vehicle you were driving, and here's the license plate number. The quicker we can get that information out, the better it is. The other thing, there's, and I know the Zadora and I have talked about this, there's safety apps you can get for your phone. There's lots of them out there, and I don't use any of these, but I do have one that came on my phone. But there's things like Siren GPS, Red Panic Button, Watch Over Me, Be Safe, Home Snap. There's lots of apps out there you can do. Now, in my case, I have an Android phone. Android comes with a safety built in. So if I hit the power button 3 times quickly, it immediately sends an alert out to the person I choose. Okay? And so that person gets that alert saying, uh-oh, sheriff's in trouble. It turns on the audio and video. Now, sort of a funny story how this worked the first time. Some of you all may remember there was a halfway house that they tried to put in Cotter, and I was pretty vocal about don't put a halfway house next to a school and a liquor store. I just don't think that's a good combination with a senior housing development right behind you. Okay, so they had this big public meeting. It was bad. I mean, I'm yelling and screaming and hollering, and everybody's mad on both sides. Well, we were camping with some friends, and so I left there that day, and I went out to the campsite, and inadvertently, I somehow pressed the button 3 times. Well, my chief deputy is my person that I chose to get that. Well, he knows what was happening, and so he immediately thinks this is not good. All right, so he sent me a text message, said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to hit it." Well, then he got to thinking, was I under duress? And said that back to him. So he sent the cavalry, okay? Which is nice, don't get me wrong, but when blue lights come flashing into the campground, people got to get nervous. Since then, we do have a code phrase, okay? Because it did inadvertently go off one other time. But this time, when he says, "Are you okay?" I know what code phrase to say back to him that he'll know that everything's fine. So again, that comes with your Android phone. But get some sort of an app, I think is a wise move. If you are going out into a rural area to show property or a house, if you can, take a passenger, okay? They can stay in the vehicle while you're showing the property. Just have somebody else in the vehicle. It could be a friend or a loved one, or heck, your kid for that matter. But that way, at least somebody's in the vehicle while you're there, if you can, and do that. If you're going to a property that's vacant, especially, and I think the good thing for all of us is there's less vacant property than there used to be. Okay. But when you're going to show a vacant property, there's a couple things. Number one, we're having a little issue with squatters going into vacant property. So when that happens, you need to check on that property periodically, make sure that's not happening. But if you can get there early, do a simple thing like walk around the house, make sure there's no broken windows or broken door, the door's not been broken into or something, so that you can get there ahead of time and just kind of make sure everything's okay. Because if it has, you want to stop, call police, sheriff's office, whatever, and get us out there to check that property before you go in. Don't go in and go, "Oh, well, I got a broken door in the back. I think I'll go in and see what's going on." No. Now, again, common sense. One of the biggest things, and this is something that's, I think you can't put into words, but I think you'll know what I mean. Trust your instinct. If something doesn't feel right, back off. Okay, don't be a hero. Don't be I don't want anybody to think that I'm being paranoid. If you don't feel right, back off. Make a call. Get somebody else out there with you. If something really is odd, call sheriff's office or police department and get us out there. Just again, that's what we do. Okay. If you get harassed, and this, while I'm going to say is more directed to the ladies in the room, it's not necessarily the ladies in the room, okay? If you get harassed or you get that unwelcome sexual advance or you get something, I can tell you need to report it. And if you get some inappropriate, forward comment, you need to nip it in the bud clearly. No, sorry, I'm married, I'm not interested, this is a business relationship. Don't do things like, well, I'm flattered you think that, because what you've done is you've left an opening for them. Make it clear. Again, sorry, not interested, this is a business relationship, boom, end of story. Probably, most of the time, that's the end of it, and you can go on with your business, okay? If they continue, I'm sorry, you probably need to fire them, okay? And again, that's because safety, your safety is not worth a commission or a sale. And I can't stress that enough. Situational awareness. Now this is true whether you're a realtor or not. And I talk about this a lot of times when safety. The great part about this area is we live in an awesome area. Quality of life's incredible. And while I can't say we are crime-free, the truth is if you decide you wanted to go to the store at 10 o'clock at night, you go get in your car and you go to the store. You don't think twice about it. But at the same time, you still need situational awareness, okay? When you walk out of the store or you pull up in the parking lot and you get ready to go to your car, all you gotta do is take a quick look around. What's my surroundings? Do I see somebody hanging out over there? Well, I may need to drive around and park in a different place. If I come out and you're by yourself and you come out and you see somebody lurking anywhere near your car, I can tell you, go back inside and say, hey, can I get somebody else to walk out with me? Very simple, okay? Just situational awareness is true in everyday life, but also here, okay? When you pull up to a house, first of all, when you pull into a house to show it, think, where am I going to park? Don't get blocked in. In other words, you want to make sure that where you park your vehicle, whether it's on the curb, the street, or even the driveway, where nobody can block you in from behind. You have a way out. Lock your car. Now, is there anyone in this room, I'm going to put you on the spot, that has their car outside that is not locked at this moment? I see one, I see two, and I see probably two more that's not going to admit it, okay? So let me tell you two things. One, if I go back, probably, and I'm making this kind of a general statement, but I could probably back this up if I researched it. If I go back and I looked at the last 10 automobiles that were stolen, all 10 of them had the keys left in the vehicle. Now I'm going to go one step further. Over the last, ever so often, we have a rash of what we call vehicle break-ins, where they get in the cars and steal everything in there, okay? At one point, we were approaching somewhere around 75 vehicles that happened over a period of about a week, okay? Every single one, without exception, was left unlocked. We had a case, and I'm not picking on Walmart, but it was Walmart. This goes back, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago. They had a rash of vehicles broken into Walmart. Okay. They go back and pull the video. 2 people, one driving, one walking. And this is all they did. Walk down through between the cars, pull on the door handle, pull the door handle, pull the door handle, whoop, in and out. They were never in a car more than 10 seconds. 20-some vehicles broken into. So guess what? If you locked your car, you weren't a victim. Okay? So, lock your car. Okay? When you pull up to show property, lock your car. Now, somebody help me. Why would you think it's important to lock your car when you're showing property, when you get out?
Nobody gets in.
Nobody gets in. Okay? Because what you don't want to have happen is whoever you're showing to, especially if it's new clients you don't really know, that they don't have somebody else that's going to get in your vehicle and be waiting on you to get back in. Okay? So lock your vehicle. Now again, I realize what I'm telling you may sound a little overzealous a little bit, but it's safety and it's a small thing. Just lock your vehicle. Now, this is going to get a little controversial, but I'm going to suggest that everybody here needs to carry a weapon. Not necessarily a gun, but a weapon of some kind. That can be pepper spray. It could be a weapon if you want to, but I encourage that because, again, it has to do with safety. Now, a couple things here. If you're going to carry a weapon, if you're going to carry a gun, if you're going to carry pepper spray, know how to use it. I mean, by that I mean know is there a safety on it, because some of them come with a safety. How do you do that? If you're going to carry a gun, now, I know Bob and Linda back here are from law enforcement. Is anybody else here got a law enforcement background? Okay. So they may not totally agree with this, but this is my feeling. If you're going to carry a gun, know how to use it, practice with it, okay? And there's one more thing. I'm going to strongly recommend that you have a gun that has no external safety, okay? So for example, I carry a Glock. That's what we're issued. It has a safety. Its safety is built in. It will not go off unless I pull that trigger. I can throw it. I can jump up and down on it. I can take a hammer and beat it all day long. It is not going to go off unless I pull that trigger. The problem, a lot of your weapons have a safety that you have to flip a switch or push a button to turn that to where it will fire. If you have one of those, I can tell you, when the adrenaline hits, your fine motor skills go away. If you even remember to turn the safety off, which will be doubtful, you're probably not going to get to turn it off because you are that when the adrenaline hits. So whatever weapon you get, a revolver is fine, an example. In every weapon that I own in my house, my wife doesn't mind going and shooting guns, but she doesn't particularly like guns. She's not going to carry a lot of them. But every single weapon that we have, all you have to do is pull the trigger. There is no remembering to do whatever. So if you are going to carry one, I strongly encourage you to get one. It's called an external safety. They're going to have this built-in safety, just not something you have to flip a switch. There's lots of classes out there you can take if you're nervous about that you can do, and I encourage you to do that. Again, this is, while we live in paradise here, we're not exempt from everything. And so just, again, being prepared. And on that same note, look professional and be professional, okay? So if you act like you know what you're doing, okay, to that person, it's kind of like no different than a police officer. If we're sloppy and our shirt tail's untucked and the boots aren't shined, they look at us, you're a slob, you're probably not trained very well, and you probably, are not proficient. Same thing true here. If you act like you know what you're doing and you're professional and you address them, you will help alleviate a lot of that issue just because of your appearance. Now, one last thing on the weapon, okay? Now, Bob put you on the spot. I'm picking on Bob because we go way back. So Bob, I'm reasonably confident that you have a weapon somewhere in your bedroom.
That's a fair assumption.
And I would dare say that if you were asked, is there a bullet or a round, depending on your terminology, is there one in the chamber, I would almost guarantee he's going to say yes, okay? And the reason, because the gun doesn't do you any good if it doesn't fire. And I'm going to go back to the same issue with the external safety. If you think when the adrenaline hits and all heck breaks loose and you pull it out and you pull that trigger and nothing happens because there's not one in the chamber, and now you think, oh, okay, I think I will take the time to put one in the chamber, you're done. So it doesn't do you any good if you're going to carry a weapon. It doesn't do you any good if it's at your house if you don't have one in the chamber. Now, if you got kids, understand you need to keep them locked, and I want to make that's a whole separate issue. But keep one in the chamber. I hear it all the time. Well, it's loaded, but I don't keep one in the chamber. It's not loaded. Exactly. Whoever said that, amen. Okay? It's not loaded. Okay? Now, not trying to, I know that's a little bit controversial, and if you don't feel comfortable carrying one, don't carry one. okay? You don't need to carry one if you don't feel comfortable doing it. All right, now, the last thing, I just picked out what I'm going to call my general tips on what to do. And again, these are something as a non-realtor that I put together, and you'll have to tell me whether you think these are crazy or not. But some of these, and I did a little research, and so some of these I see from different places that talks about safety, and some of them just my opinion. But if you got a brand new client, meet them at your office if you can, first time, okay? Get a copy of their identification, and I would bet that probably you all have policies that require that. Get a copy of their ID, make photocopies of it, okay? Google their name. You'd be shocked at what you could find just by Googling their name. Do a little social media check, okay? You'd be surprised what you find on social media. Believe me, you'd be surprised what you can find on social media, okay? But do the same thing with those new clients that you've not worked with before. If you can, show the properties during daylight hours instead of at night, okay? Now, I understand sometimes that's not going to work, but if you have to show it at night, or if it's going to be where it's going to be night by the time you get through, that's where you probably need to take a few extra precautions, take somebody with you or something if at all possible. Keep your cell phone with you, okay? Now, if I was showing property, I've got a cell phone on my side, but if I think, and again, I'm not a realtor, but if I'm showing property, this probably needs to stay in my hand, okay? 2 reasons. Number one, quickly access if I need to do something, and especially if you have an app where you can do an emergency. But number 2, if there is a bad guy and they see you got your phone in your hand all the time, it's going to make them more cautious about doing anything because they don't know what you have. So again, for me, it would seem logical that you'd want to keep that cell phone in your hand. Okay, now it is, whatever, not quite 1 o'clock. So if you looked on your cell phone and I asked you, is your cell phone have at least 50% battery life right now? Okay? Because you need to make sure your cell phone has at least 50% battery life when you go out. Because your cell phone's not going to do you any good if it's not loaded, right? If you can't call, it's not going to do you any good. So make sure you keep that cell phone charged. The other thing is, you've seen these little external battery packs that you plug in? Those actually also charge your phone. So those are handy to have wherever so that you can keep it and keep your phone charged. Try to avoid giving the client what I'm calling personal information. Obviously, you're going to chit-chat, you want to gain their trust, and so you're going to talk a little bit about family, but they don't need to necessarily know my address where I live, okay? And on that same note, ladies, if you have very nice jewelry, you don't probably need to wear that when you go show property, but you also probably, every one of you all, I'm confident, has got your picture up on some website, something showing you're a realtor, or you're in social media, because if you think you can look at it and research social media, so can they. You probably don't want to have your expensive jewelry on in those pictures, because if you've got expensive necklaces and rings and whatever, they now know that you've potentially got money. And so, again, some of those things having your picture taken, just leave that off, or when you show property, don't take it. Again, I mentioned earlier, don't park where you're going to get blocked in when you pull up. Make sure that you have access and way out. Keep your house keys separate from your car keys if you're going to show property. Anybody have any idea why that's important?
Steal your car to keep it into your house.
They got into your house and they know where you live. You know how they know where you live?
Yes.
They got your purse.
Registration.
Your registration is in the glove box along with your insurance. So if they've got your car, okay, keys and your house keys there, then they have access to your house as well. Lock your car. Again, common sense, trust your instincts. To me, that's the biggest thing right there. I know that was kind of quick, and again, that's just some, to me, common sense safety tips. So I would like to open it up for questions. Now, you can ask about anything, it doesn't have to be this. When I talk to kids, a lot of times they want to know what I have for breakfast. So, but again.
Oatmeal.
No, I don't eat oatmeal for breakfast. Because the oatmeal I would have seasoning in it. So, and for you new folks, we serve the same meal 365 days in the jail. You get oatmeal for breakfast, bologna sandwiches for lunch, and beans and cornbread for dinner every day. And we don't put salt in the beans either. So, questions? Anybody?
It's not a question, but after we had a realtor in Arkansas, be murdered, I always try to get there first, but I go to the back door and unlock it, so we have another escape route out.
That's very smart. So you've got another way out. And again, it's not to scare you, it's just try to do some common sense things. So, anybody else?
Not very tall.
Oh.
Is there a way when you're looking at somebody's ID to know if it's legit, if it's real?
Picture should be on.
Well, I mean, aside from the picture,
Well,
is there even like a quick website or something you could do?
there are certain symbols and stuff, for example, like on an Arkansas driver's license. And remember, you're obviously showing for
Right.
many states, and every state's somewhat different. If it obviously looks fake, that would be a first red flag. The problem is right now, if you handed me an Arkansas driver's license and asked me is it real or not, if it looked real, I'd actually have to go look up in a book and figure out what symbol and where. I mean, it's not like a quick. Now again, Arkansas particularly, because I know about Arkansas, does have certain places you can go look to see if it's legit. However, they've gotten much more sophisticated. It wasn't here, but they busted a place out of, actually you could upload your photo and China would send you a driver's license.
Of course.
Yeah.
With the holograms.
Do what, sir?
With the holograms on it.
Yes, with the holograms and stuff on it. So, yes, ma'am.
Well, to go off of that, I don't know if any of y'all have the Forewarn app, but you can put in like their phone number, and it will tell you if they have any criminal records. Look that up. And
Yeah.
I found one recently that had a,
Yeah,
Love
there
this.
has been people calling me in the middle of the night, and it's for sexual exploitation and all this stuff, and.
Well, that's because of your commercial on TV, though.
You were in it. They must-
Oh, I was in it too, wasn't I? Oh, sorry.
And
Getting those same calls, John?
Yeah, I'm getting those same calls, so.
So I actually found, it's called Invisaware, and they have a safety jewelry, and so, like, Marcia has one, and Tracy has one, and Monique has a bracelet, but this will actually call, like, APT and 911, and it will send a map out to your emergency contacts of exactly where you are.
you have to have your phone with you and it has
Yeah.
to be charged.
But if your phone does get knocked out of your hand or anything like that, and you push it, then it will, I mean, this is, if I get knocked over or something and my phone's on the ground, there's nothing else I can do, so.
That's smart.
That's from the family of the real estate agent.
Yeah, so the Beverly Carter Foundation is the one who necklaces do.
That's awesome. I think that's fantastic. So if they can get with you all if you don't know about that, that's great. Anybody else? Going once. Going twice. Okay. Thank you all very much.